what's up, pal?
Oh, wait a minute. This doesn't sound like Anthony. Oh, I'm so happy you're here because I'm tired of running reruns every excuse he gets not to do this.
Of course,
That
of course.
we tried to do this once before. By the way, I have the famous Blake Chadwick on the other side of this podcast. For anyone curious, most listeners will have heard of you because you you do get mentioned. I think there was a while where there was a tradition where either Anthony or I would hide a shot at Blake Chadwick in the podcast, and it was like became an Easter egg kind of thing. But
what kind of shots are we talking about here,
listen,
Benji?
it depended. It was a lot of times it was in reference to whatever we were talking about, and if it pivoted to a shot at Blake, and it flowed. It was never like a random like let me get my shot in here.
Right.
It had to have a natural flow to it,
Of course.
like some kind of reason for being. Otherwise, we would go a podcast or two without. It didn't always happen. I'm just saying that for a while there was a nice run where we were definitely fitting them in. And
let's continue the run then.
Let's. Well, I mean, we could listen. I felt like this podcast could just be us taking shots at Anthony for 45 minutes.
We could.
am not opposed to that. And if I decide to do fill-in hosts instead of reruns from going on, some of the fill-in hosts would that would be their motive for doing it. Like Billy and Bobby and a few of the others that have done this before. So,
of course,
I do want to say I did want to acknowledge this. First and foremost, is that I'm a little bummed that.
What are you bummed about?
I think this is going to be the first AEW pay-per-view that you're not coming over for.
Yeah, it's definitely the first one in a while.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Forbidden Door is forbidding me from watching it. I will be in the wonderful Smoky Mountain region there in the great state of Tennessee, calling some MMA action. And, it would be pretty cool if it was a few weeks from now and I was in the great state of Tennessee and I could maybe pop by that Flair abortion that we're going to see.
True. I think I want to send you I think Sunday I'm going to just send you a picture of my door and write forbidden on it because
that it would be the forbidden door. It's not like I can walk through with food this time.
No. Well, you always walk through with food.
But at least, for others.
Well, listen, that's a foregone conclusion. And the beauty of it is that we all know, and we're just excited for it to happen so that we can just talk about it. Like, it's just like we know this is like, you could set your clock to it, like the sun rising and setting. So we know when Blake's coming over that the next day we're going to have to make some jokes about him bringing food for just himself. So, did you hear, Did you hear Howard's opinion on that?
I was in the double episode. I got down on both episodes of Howard.
Yeah, but we brought that up to him, and he went from putting you over like $1 million going, "Oh, that's just wrong."
That's very on brand.
Yeah, well, we were trying. Listen, you probably could hear on that podcast that we were doing our best to steer Howard into burying a few people, and it was
you were literally just detouring right into the deep ends of the ocean.
Softballs, though, like you would think that these would all be like just he'd be cranking them, at least getting on third base, and we're talking about Howard Brody running and still getting to third base on these softballs.
You would think that I was waiting for a little bit of a deeper dive. I was I have to say, I'm a little disappointed that on the platform of the Breakfast Club,
yes,
he decided to pull back a little bit.
Yeah, but then the funny flip side is, I think to this day, he still checks in pretty regularly with Anthony, wondering if there's any feedback because he's worried he went too far on it.
The next day, I'm getting calls, texts at all hours of the day. Have you watched it? Have you heard about it? I'm like, Howard, I don't think anyone's running to hear this, but, obviously if they do hear it, I would imagine that, I can't imagine, with the exception of Mr. Owens, I can't imagine anyone really creating any kind of thing out of it.
Right. That's fair. Well,
listen, we all love Mr. Santee, but I don't think anything Howard said would be wholeheartedly either disagreed with or shat on.
I think part of his 12 steps is admitting that all is true.
Yeah. So what step would that be?
I don't know. I don't know the steps. Let's just say like accountability. Like there's got to be some self-accountability,
You would think.
So I assume one of 12 steps has to be accountability. I'm not saying listen, I know one of the steps is like asking for forgiveness or whatever. I'm not saying he's at that stage, but he's got to be at least at the accountability stage of this program.
You would think he's pretty close.
And I'm saying, and I'm not, and again, I'm just making a joke here. I don't know that he's even in a program, but I know that he's cleaned up. So we just kind of like associate one with the other. You know what I mean? So
right.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, let's be honest. That this show's like as Seinfeld as it gets. It's a show about nothing. So
it is.
It's like if we really want to just shoot on Anthony for the next like 30 minutes, listen, just you could start us off because I'll tell you on my end, I'm ready to start a spite podcast and just fire him. And
So, all right. So let's say there was the proverbial spinoff. Let's say we did have the spite podcast.
Well, it wouldn't be a spinoff so much as a pivot.
Well, so what would it be called?
It would be called the Spitecast.
Oh, okay. I like that. Or maybe it's like the Dinner Club.
The Bitter Club? And
no,
then
the Dinner Club. No, dinner.
Dinner? I think the Bitter Club is better. I was
going to say not breakfast, but dinner.
Yeah, I understand. See, the Dinner Club sounds way too classy for anything I would be involved with, or any of my adjacent peripheries. I don't think any of us would be in a dinner club. That's for sure, unless it's like one of those things like Dwayne Long and Howard used to do with the wrestlers.
Right.
Which was that they would bring what was that like a handful of people, like what 10 people.
I'd say it was a table's worth, about 10 to 12 maybe tops, and I think they all chipped in, brought in the name, and talked to him for a couple hours.
Right, they'd pool their money, they'd fly in a guy, they'd go out and have a fancy dinner, and basically it was to spend like a solid 2.5 3 hours with the individual talking the talk, and it'd be good if they recorded them and then put them out on YouTube.
Now that is something that is probably one of those situations where the whole idea of sitting down with the name and having some dinner and kind of breaking kayfabe and the whole bit, it was a little bit ahead of its time. But the idea of then broadcasting it and capitalizing on it was way,
I don't know if it's ahead of its time. I mean, we're talking RF videos 20 years ago,
That's true. And I guess, this is that whole practice had been going down for,
by the way,
roughly
RF videos for it. Like, we're talking shorthand sometimes, and I like to take a pause and like fill people in for that don't know. We're talking some wrestling shorthand here. RF Videos was a company owned by a guy named Rob Feinstein. So, real clever. RF Video. I should just name this podcast. Let's be like if I name this podcast BT Podcast,
right.
And Rob Feinstein used to put out these videos called shoot videos, where they would have these mostly unemployed and disgruntled, usually in the later stage of the career or retirement of their career, wrestlers would sit down and answer and basically do a long form interview where they would shoot, which would mean like tell the truth. What's the right definition of shoot? Just kind of like
I guess
real, because shooting in the ring means like real, like you're really throwing a punch, you're really kicking, you're really shooting on someone.
Not holding anything back, not protecting the business necessarily.
Right. So there you go. For wrestling purposes, it's not protecting the business. And so these guys would make a bunch of money selling DVDs of these things. Now that whole business model's fucked since DVDs are no longer thing, or CDs. Yeah, DVD is no longer a thing, and the internet, everyone just pirates everything 2 seconds later anyways. So
right.
Aside from the fact that RF is, like a internet pervert and all these other things,
Speaking of which,
yes.
Are you aware of how he ties into arguably the biggest star in wrestling today?
Ties into the biggest star in wrestling today. Who would you consider the biggest star in wrestling?
Arguably, I would say it's someone that's certainly in the conversation.
In the business?
Yes.
Currently?
And from our angle, certainly one of our top.
Are you talking like a Roman Reigns type?
Well, no. I mean, I would say, I guess Roman would probably be at the pinnacle of the business right now. But in that same conversation, I would probably have to say would be one MJF.
Yeah.
And a lot of people probably don't realize Maxwell Jacob Friedman, when he was on the independent scene in his first couple of years cutting his teeth, I'd say probably back in 2014, 15 times, maybe 16, he was Maxwell Jacob Feinstein.
Oh.
And he changed the name almost 100% due to the connection where people could...
any association to that. Yeah.
Correct.
It's like being an Anderson. You don't want to be...
right. I guess in your case, it would be negative.
No, but I'm saying like the family association. Like you don't want to be a Feinstein and people think that you're from the Feinstein tree of wrestling, which is,
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I was nervous you were saying that back then MJF looked like more like a cute 14-year-old boy that will pretend he said 17 on the internet, Did I ever tell you one of our Feinstein stories? I have 2 of them, by the way. Do you know either of my Feinstein stories?
I do believe at some point I have heard you bring up Feinstein, but I don't necessarily connect. I can't connect the dot with a specific story.
Okay, well, I have heat going back to the original ECW days with the guy.
Now, I have to say, I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast obviously is at least aware of in some way, shape, or form our dear, long-loved good friend, Double J.
Jackie. We bring him up a lot. Yes.
I have to imagine there's a connection here where you having heat with Feinstein's connected to Jackie.
No, actually, it's not.
Wow. Okay.
It kind of predates Jackie.
Okay, go.
I met Jackie on the last leg of my relationship with this girl who's part of the story. So I was dating and living with this girl, Jan, who turned out to be a complete whore and cheated on me and yada yada. So and that's all. I mean, the term whore might be objectionable, except that she went on to cheat on most of her other boyfriends and husbands after me. And those are like way more in the public eye than anything I had with relationship wise with her. So anyway,
right.
let's jump back into me though. So we used to go to wrestling stuff because I rediscovered wrestling when I was living with her. That we had the little cable box that got all the channels, and that's when I was clicking around on a Sunday, and it was the pay-per-view after Bash at the Beach, and I see Hogan and the Blackbeard and the whatever.
Oh, so that's like prime time.
And I'm like, I'm in. I'm all in for this. So we used to start going to wrestling shows, and we would go to the ECW shows at War Memorial.
Right.
And she met, I found all this out after the fact, but of course, I think she started chatting to Rob Feinstein at his little table in the lobby up front in the War Memorial. If you're familiar with the War Memorial, you walk up these stairs, and then there's a bunch of doors. You go in, and there's a big lobby area where there's some ticket windows on the side and whatever, and then you walk through that, and there's double doors that go into the main arena or whatever you want to call it. But in that lobby area, they used to have ECW set up on the right with like T-shirts and other merchandise. And Rob Feinstein always toured with them and had a table selling wrestling tapes, videotapes. And I think Jan ended up chit-chatting with him. And I found out later on that she had like kind of planned to meet him at his hotel like the next day or something.
Oh!
So complete heat with the guy. I mean, listen, I've always said this, that like, it's not his fault that my girlfriend wants to cheat on me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the same thing, like if I'm the single guy in a problem, it's I didn't make a promise to her boyfriend not to cheat on her with me. So it's like I get it, but it's still not gonna like the guy.
Of course. Like it's not your boy.
Right. He's never gonna be my boy. And he doesn't, and I'm sure he didn't know anything. It wasn't like she introduced me to him as her boyfriend at some point or nothing like that. So whatever. So then years later, when the I just never liked the guy after that because of course my girlfriend wants to cheat on me with this guy. Fuck this guy, So then years later, when it's the WrestleMania in Miami,
this is the infamous trees blocking the ring WrestleMania.
Yeah, where they had the fake palm trees on every corner of the posts.
Oh yeah,
but like set back because the trees were like fake trees that were holding it was like a cover over the ring in case it started raining, I guess.
Yeah, those trees fucked me out of the view. And listen, I still had pretty good seats, still got to see stuff, but yeah, that wasn't fun.
Right. Well, yeah, there was that one, and we park, and as we're getting out of as we're parking, the car next to us that we just parked next to, because they line you in, bang, 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 So right. So then we go in, and then there's a car after us, and that's how they fill them. I see Rob Feinstein getting out of the car next to us, and Jackie gets all panicky because he knows me. I'm the one that will actually say something out loud. And so he's like, don't say anything. And I hadn't even seen Rob yet. But because Jackie started panicking.
Oh, yeah, he's instigating.
He drew my attention, and I see Rob Feinstein getting out of the car and walking to the fucking building. We were going to hang out for a while still. I think we still had this. We still had to spray paint. We had gotten some wrist bracelets, those plastic ones for clubs. We had bought them at Party Supermarket and bought the color paint that they were going to use for the after party one. So we spray painted a bunch of blue wrist bracelets purple that we then used that night to get in the after party. So they
worked.
Absolutely worked. They were just still sticky.
That's amazing.
But because they don't look for writing, they just look for the color. So we had to still spray paint those on the. There's probably some section of parking lot at the Miami Dolphins stadium that has a square with purple on the edges of it, like from where we spray painted this thing. But so I get out of the car and I start going, oh, we parked next to the pedophile. We parked next to the child predator. Are we within 100 yards of a fucking school? Can he even be? I start.
You're just dropping pellet after pellet on him.
And I'm saying them louder and louder as he's walking further and further, so that he at least still hears me at the same tone. And he just he no-sold it. He never looked back or whatever. But yeah, those are my two Rob Feinstein stories.
That's pretty funny. I feel like the only connection I have through Rob is all of that stuff with Luke several years ago.
It's weird because I assume that Luke made money through Rob.
Right.
Probably doing shoot interviews and maybe whatever else. I don't know. But it always annoys me, and this harkens back to you a little bit. Always annoys me when some of these industry creeps that should be fucking blackballed from the business, but are allowed to hang around by people, are on my friends' socials. Like when Luke is interacting with Rob Feinstein all the time, it irks me in such a way. Just like you with Luke.
I was going to say, just like when there's a specter hanging over my page, right?
Come on. Now explain this to me. What are you, just playing nice guy? You just playing the politics game? What's going on here?
I mean, it's mostly a political game. And truthfully, I mean, all of the stuff that materialized between you and Marco and really anyone else in Lou, I wasn't even around. Like, that was before I was even here. So I wasn't firsthand a part of any of that stuff.
No, I get it, but you have to understand. Maybe you haven't been on this side of it before, but when your boys have a problem with someone, it hurts. Well, it hurts to see one of your other boys,
which I totally understand. Around. And again, we're talking, very much at an arm's length here. It's all a political kind of thing, and truthfully.
He comments on your page like your boys. Like you guys have like 30 minutes reserved every Tuesday to just talk about the business with each other.
Well, knowing Lou, obviously some of our listeners probably do, most probably don't.
They've heard that, if depending how long they've listened to, we have brought him up, we have told some stories, and if they listen to the old ones with Marco, me and Marco have definitely told some Lou stories.
Lou kind of, I guess, swings in various directions. So I think his coming across as my boy might be something else.
I don't know what that means. I think you need to get less vague on that.
I think there's a chance.
Sweet on you?
He might. Like it's possible. It's possible.
That's weird because I don't perceive him as.
No, now in person, there's never been anything where it's like, whoa, this is uncomfortable.
I've always pictured him exclusively interested in girls, but being the kind of creepy guy that wouldn't, he's kind of like, he's definitely entrenched in the 80s version of seedy where like, I mean, she's sleeping, but is that really going to stop me? Kind of guy,
right.
The like, well, I'll roof her the first 10 times and then she'll actually give me consent kind of guy. I mean, it's definitely more his look and the vibe. I've never heard someone post that Lou did that to them. I'm not saying he has. I'm just saying that's the vibe, and he does not discourage it. He leans into it. For some reason, he thinks it's a wrestling heel gimmick or something.
Right.
Unless you've heard something, and then we can have some breaking news on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I get it, and
as much as I don't like the guy, I'm gonna be fair and say I've never heard a bad thing about him actually doing something to someone. You know what I mean?
Right, and he's someone that he's never like done anything directly to me, so it's hard for me to like completely no sell him and be like a dick to him just because. But I mean, listen, I absolutely keep him at an arm's length. It's not like we're hanging out. I mostly am placating him in almost every situation where he's, spouting off, and I'm just like, yeah, of course, Lou, that kind of deal. Listen, he's for better or worse. I mean, he did, not that I couldn't on my own volition, but at the time, him putting me over with CCW and helping me get involved, on a higher level there. I mean, I'm sure it helped more than hurt. So, I mean, it's hard to totally shit on the guy. I mean, until he does, I guess, some Lou-like things to me, it's kind of hard.
Okay. I just always, I think you and I'm just like, I know enough people that have had bad experiences with him that I don't have to.
Right.
I don't have to say he's done nothing to me. But, tomato. I don't want to put you in a bad spot any more than, any more than we normally do.
It's all good.
So how often are you out of town with this shit? Because usually you can make these AEW things.
Yeah, I mean, it's, thankfully, I mean, I have had a lot of events, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays.
Like this one you're doing on Sunday. Is this a regular place you work for, or how many of them?
Yeah, it's
a
regular
one-offs?
company I work for. It's interesting. The original event was scheduled for late May, and they ended up having to move it for some reason. And obviously with MMA, it's different. Whereas with wrestling, you move a date, With MMA, you move a date. Is that fighter still going to be able to fight? I mean, they got to be in camp another month kind of thing. Like, the card's going to change. Like, everything's way different because it's real. Right. So,
well, so other than like, what does a fighter do if their card gets moved? Are they looking for another fight?
They might look for another fight
because they're already trained up, and it's like, you're ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. They might look to be added to a card, sooner than later, within a week or so of that fight.
Well, because you're also paying people, right?
Well, it depends. I know this fight that I'm doing on Sunday is it's actually a mix of pro and amateur.
I'd say like the pro, let's split the card. Let the top few on the card, they're paying people to train with them and whatever it is, if it's dietitians and or just like or time at a fucking like a gym, working on special things or whatever, that if they have to extend it another month or two, that it all of a sudden whatever they'd make for their win or loss.
I mean, that's actually an interesting point. I never thought about it from that perspective. I mean,
I think mostly it's money, you would think.
Right. And, again, I don't know how much these guys are earning. Again, this is a mixed fight, pro and am, so the pros obviously are getting paid. But, the purse, I can't imagine it being huge, especially for the loser.
Right. Well, but then that even would dictate more that you would want to get the fight in.
Right. I mean, it's interesting. But, yeah, I mean, it's, this is a company that I work for that we've done events in Kentucky, Tennessee, Illinois, Indiana. So, it's a kind of a Midwestern based company.
Little bubble there.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's,
I was looking at, I was looking at houses like in like Indiana, and I was like, or like generally in that area. And I'm like, oh, this is like some of these places I was looking at, just random houses on this website. I'm like, man, if I wanted to run a territory, there's all these big cities within like an hour and a half to 3 hours. It's like,
well, ironically, for this same company, they're running a wrestling event, and it's going to be August 19th. And August 19th is going to be wrestling, and August 20th is going to be MMA. And it's going to be at a minor league baseball stadium. I know I've done a couple of MMA events there for them, but they're going to be doing wrestling. Originally, I think they were trying to work with Billy Corgan, but for some reason it didn't work out with the NWA.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple people on the card. I think Jacob Fatu's on the card. I've seen a couple of different things for it so far. I don't have a lot of details.
Have you been to a show at a baseball stadium? A wrestling show?
Wrestling wise, no. I mean, I remember Ring of Honor a few years back did those shows, I think in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and those were. I remember watching those. Those had some New Japan guys on them, right?
Yeah, they did. Those were on TV. Remember, those were on like the weekend TV show, those looked a lot of fun. And I remember several years back, I had some friends that I think wrestled in Fenway. They had something going on in Boston for like an indie thing. And of course,
where do they like
down here?
But I'm saying I'm just trying to picture that. Like, I assume they have like floor seating, right? Like on the field seating, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's and don't forget when Global Force Wrestling was doing shows. I mean, they were pretty much all stadium shows.
Yeah, but I don't think other than seeing highlights of stuff.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you saw like pictures and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of those things where most of the seating is, on the field, but
because I feel
you're
like
seating in that first section.
Right, the first section. But even that seems a little bit removed. But I don't know, because then I'm thinking about like an arena, and you can have seats further back than that, anyways.
Right. I mean, you're not necessarily right on top of the action, but it's a little bit more of a, I guess, a kind of a bigger show feel because you're kind of watching it from afar.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting environment, and it should be fun. Especially be interesting to see how some of these guys work the crowd, especially with them not really being near them.
Yeah, you can't. You're not like within ears reach of a lot of them.
And I'm also personally very curious because I thought the reason that they were doing the dual show was really to help the setup. But I don't know how you're going to be able to do the show with the same setup. Like, I don't know how you do wrestling in an MMA cage.
Unless you're going to do MMA in a wrestling ring.
That's possible. But,
although
to me,
a wrestling ring has a lot more bounce than a regular,
oh yeah, I mean, a cage doesn't really have any give.
Right. Or like when you see MMA in a like a, I guess, more of a boxing ring, those don't have that spread either.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, they do not. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go down. But
unless they have some kind of quick teardown and not to tear down a whole ring and set a cage up. Either they're going to have them like next to each other. Like, I don't know. You weren't there for that show, but that show in West Palm we did for Irving, where he had wrestling and MMA. They had both set up. They had a ring and a cage. So
I forgot they had MMA.
Yeah, him and Israel did it. So they had both. And they were kind of technically overlapped. They started their fights while we were still wrestling, but
that's actually hilarious.
Or something like that. Maybe someone got on the microphone. I don't remember what it was, but so they could have that, but that seems. I could also see like once the wrestling's over or once the MMA's over, they just pull the canvas up and change the flooring.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely possible. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this is where it'd be a hey, let's get Israel on and ask him how that works.
We'll call him. Let's. No, I'm just kidding. If I had his number, I might.
I do have his number, but we don't need to go there right now.
Yeah, no offense, Israel, but if we get him on, it's gonna be we're gonna ask the one question, and then we won't be able to get him off, and it'll be like 30 minutes of Israel talking about how great Israel's doing. So
yeah, don't want to bury anyone, but that's exactly what would happen.
Come on, he would. I don't think even he'd argue with that. So come on.
Right? No, yeah, I agree.
Listen, he's like I like ribbing the guys like Israel because anyone that's like survived a near-death experience, they seem to usually have a better perspective about life and could take a rib.
Oh no, he's definitely changed a little bit. I mean, he seems to be a lot more like, not that he wasn't before, but he kind of carries himself in a very thankful manner these days.
Yeah, just happy to be here. Yeah.
No, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think he could take the rib.
Right. Well, so I got about 15 minutes or so. Oh. So what do you want to dive into here?
Well, what do you want to? Do you have anything on your mind before I get into anything? Because I got a few things. I mean, not about you necessarily, but I got a.
Well, let's dive in because I can't really think of anything offhand that is pertinent.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we want to go pertinent to us or just pertinent in general. I did watch. I don't know if you saw it today. The press conference for the Ric Flair's last fight thing that's going on.
No, I did not.
Last match. It had like him and David Crockett sitting on one side, and like Jeff Jarrett, like the assistant to the mayor because the mayor couldn't be there, and somebody else, I forget who it was, on the other side, and everyone came up.
Was Rock and Roll there?
No, no other workers were there.
Got it.
And then we had some. I don't know who the host was. You may have known who the host was, but he kind of like talked for a little bit, then brought everyone up to say a little something and whatever. It was like a 30-minute thing. But
he signed a lethal?
Huh? No.
And he signed a lethal?
No, I don't even.
Well, the theory going around now, is that it's a work, and they're trying to get heat on the main event.
I think that like. Yeah, I guess, because you're like, these guys trained together, and now they're having a match
Like, it
together.
Doesn't make any sense to me that Lethal would be that involved with the preparation, and forgetting even in Flair's match, but not even on the card.
Maybe. I'm curious, like, there's this weird thing going on where Flair's like, I'm not the booker. I'm not in charge of booking. I'm like, if you
Right, like, I've got no say in my final match.
He's a partner in this, and well, they did ask him, like, who would you want? Because they didn't announce who it was still. And they're like, who would you want? He's like, I don't care if it's a name or if it's a nobody. And then he gave an example of, like, when AJ came to WWE, he's like, I didn't think anyone would even know who he was. And then I heard the pop, and you're like, so the internet's crazy these days, kind of alluding to, like, whoever I work, people are going to have heard of them, even if they're not from TV. So It was almost like, kind of like opening the field a little bit, but come on, like you're going to have a name in there. You're going to have, he's not going to.
And there's no way it's a singles.
I mean, I think it's going to be.
That's crazy.
It is.
That's crazy.
He did, like, when he was talking, he almost had to reassure people. Like, I've been working really hard. I'm in great shape. I'm not like in 1989 shape, but, I'm not 2009 shape either. And he's like, right. And then he's like assuring people, I'm not going to die in the ring. He like almost literally said that. He said, I know I've said either I want to die in a ring or under a woman, but he's like, I promise you, I have no plans of dying in the ring. I think like there was a big like, maybe there was a little wash of comments that came in like, I'm not gonna watch Ric Flair commit suicide on national TV, but on pay-per-view or something.
Right.
It was to the point where he addressed it, you know, and you're like, that feels weird, but there must have been something he had to address or felt he needed to address.
I mean, it's obviously one of those things where, you know, people see he's old, they know about the health issues in recent years, and, you know, they certainly want to make sure that he can live that quality of life that's just not in the ring. But, you know, I'd imagine this is not something. Listen, he's probably going to do some stuff where we're like, he probably shouldn't have done all that, but I'm sure it's going to be relatively, you know, safe.
Right. I don't think we're talking about like falling off a ladder through a table on the outside of the ring, you know.
But in that same vein, we're almost 100% getting the top row bump.
Well, for sure. But that's pretty tame.
But you can do that safely.
That's pretty tame.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
think your thoughts on like working some like heat with Lethal. It's just like the weird thing is that this is a one-off match pulled straight out of Conrad's ass. The guy hasn't had a match with anyone in like 10 years or whatever it's been. Like who would he have heat with that you could like create a storyline? Like let's just get out of that storyline mentality. People are there just to see Ric Flair have as good of a match as he can with someone that can go with him in the ring and help carry him or help get the story over. There's no like creating like a heat or a story like some kind of like I've got a problem with this guy's storyline thing. It just seems like not part of the vibe of it, you know?
Right. And not to name drop here,
yeah.
But as Vic Joseph told me, every week with the WWE is the greatest hits. Like literally, they announce it like it's the greatest hits. Like there's nothing new. Like they're just hitting the spots over and over and over again. And that's what Flair's doing. He's going to give you the greatest hits.
Right.
He's going to go in there and do Flair shit that you expect for 15, 20 minutes.
It's going to see the Eagles play.
Right.
They're not going to go. They're not coming out on stage and going, we'd like to play.
Well, you're going there for Hotel California. You're not going there for a deep cut.
Not even a deep cut. Like they're not going to go, we like to play something off our new album.
Or their new album. Right.
They haven't made a new album in 20 years and they tour constantly, you know? Right. They're like, why do we need to make new music? We're fucking selling 700 a seat tickets playing the old stuff. Why do we need to why do I need to memorize one extra line of something new, you know?
Absolutely.
So I think with Flair it's the same thing. It's like you're going to see everything you want to see. Of course. But at the same point it's such a like I watched him come in and I don't know what shape he's in cuz obviously he's probably in some of the best shape of his life. Because, you know, diet, exercise.
Actual shape, sure.
From the neck down, when he shows up, he's probably going to look kind of impressive. He might be wrestling with a shirt on. Who the fuck knows? But I mean,
I would imagine he's going to be in full gear, but he might have a shirt on.
I think that's what's going to happen. But from the neck up, when he walks out, he looks when he's wearing a 3-piece suit. From the neck up, he looks.
Well, I was going to say he's going to have the $15,000 robe on.
Right. No, I'm saying when he was sitting there for the presser, he looked every fucking day of his age from the neck up.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Right.
So, that's the weird thing. Like all these older guys with these like fucking dialed in bodies, but there's no like workout for your fucking face and your hairline. And all that other, and the fucking liver spots and the fucking wrinkles. And
let's not dispute the fact or dismiss the fact that, a couple of years ago, he was literally on death's door.
Oh, he was in coma for what, 20 days or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. It looked really bleak for a while.
And then couldn't, like they were saying, like he couldn't even, like, he needed help getting out of bed, let alone fucking, he had like that little strength and energy and muscle and whatever.
Right.
For so long afterwards. Isn't it weird though? Like I hear like he's back to like, I mean he's definitely Mr. Moderation, but I hear he's He hasn't cut anything out. He still goes and drinks and
Yeah,
parties.
he's still going out, whatever.
Does the
Speaking of
hang.
which,
Yeah.
In that same vein, how many of his daughter's friends do you think he's done the deed?
That's a good question.
Because like someone obviously has.
It's a good question because I feel like like his daughters have probably done everything to keep anyone in their circle away from his reach. No.
Well, and also there's the factor of, it's my daughter's like friend / colleague. I don't want to create the heat for her.
Come on, the guy gets married and is out slaying rats like a week later. Come on, I don't think that's. Plus, at the end of the night, things might get a little blurry. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
I mean, not only does a 5 become an 8, but like I don't even need to know your name, or the focus might not even come into the fact where he realizes this person knows my kid. I don't know these things, but I know we would have problems at the end of the night.
Right. Absolutely.
So.
I'm just thinking about it. I mean, it's like he's living the gimmick, and he's got all these, options potentially right in front of him.
The problem is, I think that I'm not sure which way it goes. Like, if it's friends of their daughters, the friends may be so polluted from hearing all the like angry fucking stories that the kids tell of like all this bullshit that Flair's painted in a light that makes him not attractive to these people, or they might be like, oh, he's a cocksman. I appreciate that, and let's put that on the fucking resume that I fucked Ric Flair. I mean, that is a notable thing on a fucking resume, I guess, to some people.
Right.
But I'm glad that pops into your mind.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's like, that's the kind of shoot interview we want to hear.
Well, because I wouldn't put it past him. But right. You would think we'd have heard of it.
I mean, I guess part of me just wants to hear about that one time Flair like hit on Nia Jax.
Well, I'm hitting on and fucking.
Well, right, but like actually, but then took it to another level.
Right. Well, if you're talking about her friends in the business, then maybe. I thought you meant like, when they're like in their.
Oh, I'm sure the friends. There's at least been a foray into the friends, but yeah, I was talking more of like her colleagues.
Okay. Oh, for sure. I don't know if he's ever sealed a deal because it's a huge gap now.
Right. Well, that's it presents one of those interesting scenarios.
Well, and it's like I don't know the mentality of the girls working in like let's say the WWE that like. They probably, because that whole pool is a little incestuous. Everyone's fucking everyone until they fucking marry up. And then even after then, I'm sure some of them are still fucking everyone. I don't know if that's like a thing. Like Ric Flair is a stepping stone to getting further in the business or you'd
think, hey, buddies with the top people, maybe, hanging out with Nate.
He's like, if you give me a friendly downstairs handshake, I'll talk to Hunter for you.
Well, right. Like, hey, he's boys with Hunter, it's an easy in.
And he doesn't even have to say that. Maybe they draw those connections. Yeah, I don't know. Listen.
Anyone who's watched wrestling for 5 minutes know that Flair looks at Triple H like a son.
Yeah. Well, yes. Also, Randy. I wouldn't put anything past anyone that works in that fucking building. To be honest with you, I wouldn't put it past anyone. I don't know that it's happened because no one can keep a secret anymore. So
right.
Everything eventually comes out, but I wouldn't put it past anyone. So I don't know if you got anything on the top of your head, but I know you've got another podcast coming up.
Yeah, I'm getting actually interviewed for the CCW podcast.
Oh, are you? Oh, I thought this was a real thing. All right, I I'm like, oh, he's got a thing at 6. I got a hard out, and we've got 5-6 minutes here. So I was gonna transition out, but now I feel tempted to run long and fuck them, but I won't.
Well, I mean, we can certainly talk about. I got 5 minutes. We can, run through some shit.
No, I know I was just fucking with you though. But listen, honestly, I just want to go back to the Spite podcast.
How do you how do you craft a spite cast to actually spite Anthony?
Well, here's the thing. He for a little run there, he was kind of like ducking his responsibilities. And by responsibilities, I mean answering the fucking phone and talking for half an hour. It's not like in the course of a whole day or in the course of knowing that you've got something this day and you can't do it, let's do it the day before and letting me know. There was a lot of not heads upping me, a lot of stringing me along, a lot of...
Oh, so you're waiting and he's just not there.
All kinds of stuff. It's I'll be ready at 6, and then I call it 6. He's like, I'm not done yet. And then I'm like, let me know when you're going to be ready. And then never heads up, never at 6 if he's going to be busy, letting me know I'm running late, and then I'm like a guy that's for sometimes 2-3 hours sitting there waiting, not being able to do anything because he might be available, and I'm trying to accommodate him. It was this whole thing. And then we were running so many reruns for a little while there that I was like, this is ridiculous. And so I was so close to firing him, but I don't want to be, and by firing, I mean me just quitting. And I didn't want to be the one that quits. I don't want to be that guy. I want to make him be that guy. So I want him to be the bad guy. But if he's ever the bad guy, I was going to just transition to, I was going to be like, listen, he bailed on us people. I'm going to run, even if no one ever listens to this, now it's a spite podcast. I'm going to never not do it. I would do whatever. I'd be doing what we're doing here. I would probably have made a spite TikTok to get more viewers than he has. I would have made a spite. I would just done the whole fucking gimmick just to kind of as a joke. I mean, it's obviously as a joke. It's a whole rip. Right. But embrace that whole Larry David fucking storyline where I'm just I'm, Mocha Joe over there in Atlanta.
Well, I was gonna say, what if you start putting over I don't know, French candy?
Well, my point would be anything he can do, I can do better, I think would be the story. So I would obviously just make a point of doing British candy just to prove that any fucking trained ape can fucking do this and do it better than he does it,
So basically you're saying you just have to be fat.
I don't even know if you have to be fat. You just have to... I'm just going to prove that my most spite thing was to prove there's nothing special about him. So let's go.
Because it seems like it's taken off a little bit for him.
A little bit, but he and I have both agreed that if he actually put any effort into it, he'd be in such another fucking place. He'd probably be...
That's the thing. He's putting in half effort and kind of getting over.
Right. But that's the problem. It's like, what are you doing here? If you would put in full effort, you could already be this could be your job. You wouldn't have to be fucking 9-to-5ing it for some fucking company, miserable and whatever, and you could just call your shots for the rest of your life. But instead he wants to fucking, I know, and it's we have these discussions. I know what I have to do, and he lists everything he knows he has to do. He never does any of it, and I'm like, well, yeah, there you go. So I'm
sounds about right.
So I'm a little at the end of the day, he's one step away from me just doing a whole spite parody fucking social accounts, podcast, all that, just to fucking make him feel bad at the end of the day when I show him up and be like, this is how you do it, man. This wasn't hard. This was easy. I think I need to lose weight, so I'm going to start a competition with him, and that's when I'll start my new TikTok account, and we'll start it with that, and then I'll...
Oh, that's a hell of a... I mean, listen.
Then
I think what we should do...
rivalry,
I think what we should do...
Yeah.
We'll start now.
Uh-huh.
You and Anthony in a weight loss contest.
Mm-hmm.
But the payoff is not who weighs the least. The payoff is at the end... who can still. We're gonna have another pizza rumble, but who's gonna be able to do it guided?
Wait, what?
Like we're doing a pizza contest at the end. Like that's the reward is the pizza. Like you and Anthony head to head, you diet, but it's going to be a pizza rumble instead of just seeing who's what the weight is.
So then why are we bothering to lose any weight then?
We finally get the Ben Anthony head to head, but you got to do it with the handicap of the lost weight. Like maybe you can't eat as many slices.
I'm not sure that's how that works.
It's like a Russo twist on it.
I'm not sure. I don't know that's how that works. I think your internal organs, they might be more compacted and smaller with a bunch of fat around them. I don't know. I'm not sure. We have to work on that one. Here's what I would think. We do the weight loss thing, but then at the end, maybe it's double or nothing with the pizza contest. Even if he beats me.
Oh, okay. I like that.
If he beats me losing weight,
okay,
he has to still beat me in the pizza contest, or if I beat him in the pizza contest, I win.
Okay.
Maybe the weight loss competition is worth 5 points, but the pizza contest is worth 6. So he can either beat me 11-0, or maybe it's a two out of 3 thing, because otherwise he could just be like, "Fuck it, I'll just not try in the weight loss and beat him with the pizza thing." I don't know. This is something we got to work out.
But I do think we have something here where there can be a build to a big payoff.
I feel though that like you want another Rumble, but don't you want to compete in one of these things? I feel like
I kind of do, but
you
like,
kind of like always bemoan that you're like the play-by-play guy instead of the fucking...
Part of me is a little hesitant to be on camera.
Because?
Pumped full of PEDs.
Oh. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Like I can't lie. Like I don't like I could do the contest without cheating, but I don't think that I could have as like I wouldn't enjoy it the same.
Right. And you don't want
like I don't want it to feel like I'm actually competing. Like I want to feel like I'm eating pizzas too.
But can you like take a few recreationals and still be hungry, as opposed to like getting so blitzed that you look unpresentable on camera?
That's a balance. That's a fine line that I can try to walk.
I mean, you would have time to kind of figure that out at home, you know.
Yeah. I think I could probably make that work.
Yeah, I mean, you know, or just do a natty. Everyone's got to come in natty, you know.
Natty's tough,
but everyone's got to come in natty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't have like. See, I'm not like. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
You know, everyone.
I like the prospect. We could have like maybe a tournament. Like there's things we can do here.
I mean, if we were really wanted to do it, we could have an elimination tournament where like
that's what I'm saying.
We're like a month before there's some qualifying rounds. You know what I mean? You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. You didn't respond to that, so I was like,
oh yeah, no. That all sounds legit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we need to work on that, but I think I definitely need to.
Well, next time you get Mr. Slambino on here, finally,
Jesus,
maybe loop me in, and we can start, you know, talking about this potential resurgence of the Breakfast Club's live events.
Okay, we could. I mean, Joe hit me up a long time ago asking if we would do a meatball eating or something kind of contest at the pizza shops, and I just never got back to him because I didn't think I could put anything together with you guys.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna make it work.
But maybe we'll even do it at Joe's, you know, and host the event there. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, as for him when he shows up next, I'm half tempted to just ask Earl to come by early on Sunday.
That'd be awesome.
And do it with me instead of waiting around to see if Anthony's got a window while he's basically on a work vacation here.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I got to hop on this interview podcast deal, but I like the teaser then.
Do this. Apologize for running late because you were doing our podcast.
I was dealing with Lou.
Are you?
No, I'm not talking to Lou.
If he runs the podcast, I'm listening. That's for sure. I want to hear you. No. I want to hear you two with each other's cocks in your mouths.
I bet you do.
All right. Thank you for doing this. It's better than running a rerun, I guess. Anyway,
of course. No, I'll join you soon.
You have elevated us. You bring nothing but shine to our podcast, my friend.
All right, sounds good.
All right, I tried to blow you. You didn't thank me. All right.
See ya
later.